my lovelies, welcome to my channel. If you're new, hi, how are you? I hope you're having a great day and a great week. So in today's video we will be building my entrance for my new farm core island Honeybee. I'm really excited to start this island and document the whole thing and do a bunch of speed builds with you. I've got a lot of plans for this island and a lot of things I want to do and incorporate. It's definitely an island where I want to push my ability as a builder and, you know, build things I wouldn't normally build and use items that I normally overlook. So that definitely leads on to this entrance build. I set myself a challenge with this map. This map is very difficult. The river mouths are very close to the edges and the resident service is very close to the airport. So I knew with this build I'd have to build something cohesive, something very full, in order to drag attention away from how close the resident service sits to the airport. And I thought the best way to do this was create a path that you'd have to take in order to get to resident services rather than just walking straight into it. Another sort of trick that I used was I built this fake building right next to resident services so your attention is drawn away, I guess. This whole build sort of frames resident service but makes it feel a little bit further away than it actually is. So I just ended up using the retro transportation stops and the storefronts around a cliff. It's an old trick, everybody sort of knows this trick since the 2.0 update came out. But I have never really played around with the colour red in Animal Crossing, which sounds like a silly thing to say, but I normally stick to the neutrals, the cottage core, the bricks, things like that. I never really play with like the red or blue or the farming colours, I suppose. So I definitely knew I wanted to incorporate some red and some blue into the build. And I also think it goes really well with the wheat patches and the straw fences and stuff. So I keep going back and forth to the airport to check that it still looks okay coming in. And this part of the little fake building that I did, I just couldn't understand where the storefronts was meant to sit, if they were meant to sit slightly off or in line or whatever. But I ended up settling for them just being in line and making more of a boxy sort of fake building. So in a minute I'm gonna go I go back and forth this cupboard all the way through this video, and it's one of the things I'm really grateful that the 2.0 update brought was these little storage cupboards, because it is just so much easier to go back and forth to grab all the items that you need, and also you can just use up the items that are in your pockets and not have to worry about going all the way back to your house, especially when your house is already placed in somewhere that you've built. And it could be like miles away from where you're currently building. It's just nice to have that little storage unit. So placing these wheat fields down, I've never really used the wheat fields. I love how they look and I just love how people use them. But myself, I've just never really used it much. So placing them was an experience. They're very unpredictable in where they're going to land and how off-centered they're going to be and the gaps and whatever, which I think done right looks really natural. Like I do leave some gaps in between so they're not so uniformed, but it definitely took me a while to get them all how I want them to look and how I want them to kind of sit. But after I finished placing all of these, I just went in and framed the whole thing with the stone fencing. So I use this because it's sort of that blue-grey colour, so it kind of gives that blue feel into the build, but then also it's just a different colour so it doesn't blend into the wheat fields. A lot of the fences sort of blend into the wheat fields because of how sort of bright yellow they are. A lot of fences blend into them, so I wanted to use something that was going to stand out and sort of frame the path that I'm going to build now in a minute. So I went in with this path. Like I really like the in-game pathing. I like the sound of the little people when they walk on it. I like just how it shows up on the map and everything like that. So I definitely wanted to include some sort of in-game pathing, and the light dirt path just honestly has my heart. I use this path all the time. It just looks great with any build. It goes with almost every theme. You can use it for anything. It's just that perfect shade of like brown. So I use that as my main path, and I'm planning on using it as the main path throughout the island. But I want to spice it up a little bit and include something I've never really used before, and is this lovely code, which all the codes I use will be linked in the description below. But I use this lovely white border code around the entire pathway, and I just think it just added so much more to just a plain path. And I really feel like it framed the fences around the path as well by having that border. So I added in this stone fencing around the build as well, because I didn't want it to seem very disconnected from the front half. And it's a fence that I'm going to use throughout the island, so I kind of want that flow to flow around into the entrance into the resident services. So I'm going to go ahead now and use that custom path that I was just talking about, adding in this little crossway, because I'm planning on adding tractors and different vehicles on this road throughout the island, so I feel like having crossways and designated places to cross just seems more realistic, and it just adds that more like village vibes, I guess. This pathway took me so long to do, and in a minute when I wrap the path around and into resident services, I cut a lot of me placing that down out, because even I was getting bored putting it down. I couldn't imagine watching somebody put it all down. So again, using the stunted trees and the hardwood trees, I'm just trying to expand the amount of things that I build with and making sure I'm not using the same things over and over. So the stunted trees is something I've never really used before and never really done, so I wanted to incorporate them throughout. So here I'm just placing some more trees around. I didn't want to overdo it with trees, because I kind of want the more natural and simplistic look of the build rather than it being covered in trees and plants, which is what I normally lean towards. So I kind of scattered them throughout, but not heavily relying on them being the sort of height within the build. So back to the cupboard again, and this time I was getting out some decoration bits now. So the main sort of framework of the build I was happy with at this point, so I decided to go in and decorate around and just make it look more full and more sort of lived in, I guess. I really liked the sort of photogenic background to the entrance build, so I thought by putting a little chair it kind of directs people to look at what's behind them by there, because I really like the wheat with the windmills, and resident services is a very ugly building, so I think it kind of makes it look a little bit better, a little bit nicer, and I definitely think it softens up how kind of rough edged resident service is. So I moved these pumpkins around so much during this video because I just wasn't happy with it. So I prepped all my flowers as well, because I hate placing them straight out the bag whilst doing a build, because you don't really know exactly how that's gonna look until they've grown in and grown up. So I prepped all my flowers on the side, which meant going back and forth to place them, which I didn't really mind because the end effect that they gave was really good. I contemplated what flowers I want to use in this build for a little while whilst I was Treasure Island hopping, because I wanted something that was going to be nice and full but also not overpowering that your attention is taken to them. And I think these little cosmos did perfect in what I wanted, and I think they look so nice with the build, and it's a nice pop of white. So here's the wraparound path. So on the right hand side you can see that's where I've put the museum, and I didn't know that when the museum is a tent you can't move it, so I placed it there just just to place it down and get it gone so I could get the terraforming quicker, and now it's stuck there. So I had to keep in mind throughout this build how I was gonna bring that in and how I was gonna incorporate the museum in the future. So I thought for now we will cross that bridge when it comes to it, and we'll deal with that when I do my museum build. But for now I just kind of led a road up it, and I definitely think I'm gonna have to come off this road to enter the museum, but it's a problem for another day, I guess. So that path took me ages to do, and then having to go alongside each side and put these custom paths down took up most of my time while doing this build. Everything else was quite simple and quite straightforward. It's just the pathing always takes so long. I wish it was like the Happy Home Paradise pathing, where you just go into like bird's eye view and you just drag the pathing across the floor. But I don't really know why they didn't add that aspect in. I suppose it would probably be harder on a full island than just a square plot of land. So there's another one of those crossways I've just added to sort of designate that that's where people can cross over from, and I guess not be hit by a tractor. But here I'm adding in the tractors, and the covered wagon has a little T-point like attachment. So when you place it up against the tractor, it genuinely does look like it's attached to the tractor. So I think that was so cute, and it's such a cute little detail that I've never put those two objects together in any of my Animal Crossing builds. So I was just really impressed with how it looked, and it's just it's little details like that in Animal Crossing that just makes this game so great. So I did something different with this fencing, and I added the wooden fencing in front of the hedges to make it seem a little bit full. I'm planning on having a big farm or a wheat field behind there to wrap around resident services, because that's another area I kind of struggle with, is the behind of resident services, because whatever you put there, you've either got to use a massive plot of land so you can see it past the building, or you've got to kind of lose the middle portion of the build. So I'm thinking of doing a sort of farm or thing behind there, but any suggestions for what I can build behind resident services would be deeply appreciated. So I'm adding sort of the final touches now to the build, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So this is my entrance to Honeybee. I'm really happy with how it came out. I think it is so photogenic. I think it looks so nice. The wheat field patches work so well with these windmills, and framing KK Slider apparently playing his guitar in the back. It just makes everything look so nice and so warm, and definitely this sort of 6 o'clock golden hour just really brings out the colours of this build. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it's going to suit the theme so well, and it's a little bit of a mood board that I can kind of come back to whilst doing any of the other builds of this island. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this build. If you have any suggestions of different things you think that would fit this theme, or you'd like to see me sort of try out, please comment them down below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and if you could, put the bell on so you know when I post. Thank you for watching.